Very interesting diplomatic journey of yours is Fiji. I was always enthralled about the Fiji thing. I hope several people here know about the Fiji coup of 1987. When Stevani Raboka, who was
He was trained in
he was
India.
trained in India, in Wellington. And he was the man who implemented the coup. And he used to play golf with him on a day-to-day basis. Sreenivasan is an avid golfer, no? And from 7 to 9, he used to play golf. And one fine morning, that guy was taking over the Fijian government, walking into the parliament with a revolver that you are all under us. And the government was a pro-India friendly government. And he was the ambassador of that country. He has a very interesting narrative on that. But it was in 1987, I suppose. Yes. And Rajiv was the Prime Minister of India. And Rajiv was, diplomatically, Rajiv was in the process of enriching the NRI so that rather not enriching the country by NRI contributions. That was his motto, no, those days.
Exactly.
And he wanted all the diplomats to be the NRI business people. They have to be pro-Indian, that they should invest in the country. Likewise, he was keen. And at that time, they got a bolt in the blue, from the blue, that is the Fijian coup came. And Sreenivasan sir was the ambassador, or rather High Commissioner of India in Fiji. He has a very excellent narrative on that.
Well, I won't repeat it, it will take a long time.
No,
but one thing that we have to remember is India's policy towards overseas Indians, dictated by Prime Minister Nehru, was changed by Rajiv Gandhi because of the Fiji crisis. This is something most people don't know. Jawaharlal Nehru said in the Indian Parliament that Indians who go and receive other nationalities, etc., or decide to live in foreign country, they should owe their allegiance only to their countries of adoption. He said it by record on Parliament, he read. And as far as India is concerned, we will only keep an eye on, he said, your interests and welfare. That means we shall not intervene.
But still, India didn't intervene in the Idi Amin crisis of Uganda, no?
No, Uganda, we didn't intervene. We just received them. From Burma, 1 million people, Indians, left without anything except the clothes they were wearing.
Gold also they left on.
Even the gold. In fact, my office still has the Burmese gold sitting there. We don't know who owns it. So, that situation, we did not protest. We did not protest when there are, dot busters in the United States. Whatever happened to Indian community, we discussed it. Anybody who wanted to come back, we welcomed them, received them, gave them relief. But never we raised a finger against that foreign government for being unjust to the Indians. And what happened was the Fiji coup happened when, as you mentioned, Sam Pitroda had come here and revolutionized technology.
Telecom.
Many more people were coming, and Rajiv was requesting Indians, bring technology, money, everything to India. That is when the Fiji coup happened. So my immediate reaction was to restore the friendship with Fiji, and therefore I was against taking any action with regard to the coup. And that was Rajiv Gandhi's grandfather's policy. So I did not recommend any sanctions against Fiji, but I had no way of contacting New Delhi. 3 days, nothing, no contact at all. And then I went to the Australian ship, which was parked in Fiji waters, and I managed to make a call to somebody in Delhi who spoke Malayalam. So I told them that what we are doing is wrong. Don't, impose sanctions against Fiji, because the Indians are the ones who will suffer. What are we selling to Fiji? All goods required by Indians in Fiji. You see? And so if we have a sanction, it is the Indians who are going to suffer, not the Fijians. No? So all this did not go in India. India, there was a very strong protest. And we got Fiji thrown out of the Commonwealth. So all that we can do, we against them. And then I was called by the Prime Minister. And he asked me, what is the situation? I said, we are doing all the wrong things. He said, what? And he had done all this. But I would have tried to compromise between them, and there was a way. The Governor General was still in authority. I was meeting the Governor General every night, and one day the Governor General's,
they blocked you.
The bamboo did not go up.
Yeah.
So I asked them, they said, we don't know you. So I said, but I have an appointment with the Governor General. He said, you ask the Governor General. So I called him and he said, I'm sorry, Mr. High Commissioner, you cannot see me. That was the end of those negotiations. All these were there, but there was a way out. But having taken this action, we had to take it to the other extreme. And finally, after 2 years, they ordered me out. I continued there for 2 years without being a high commissioner because they did not recognize me, we did not recognize them. But they wouldn't throw me out because the majority Indians will protest. So I was in a, Trishanku at that time.
Yeah.
But I was trying to bring about some kind of this thing. But then, after 2 years, they threw me out. They gave me 48 hours to leave. 72 hours to leave, but I said, I'll go in 48 hours so that I can come for a holiday for 24 hours.
That's a balance.
But as it happened, 10 years later, after democracy was restored, and the coup man became the Prime Minister, he invited me back officially to thank me for restoring
And he told you
democracy
that we were both officiating, we are nothing in person animosity, there is no personal
No,
animosity.
he had maintained every time that I did the coup myself. That is, the leaders of Fiji were not involved in it. That's what he used to say.
Rao Matra.
Ratumara.
Ratumara.
Then he tells me, after 10 years, democracy restored, his Prime Minister, he said, Mr. High Commissioner, we should have nothing against each other because you were following your instructions from Delhi. I was following my instructions from here. So I said, but you have been saying so far that you are not consulting anybody else. I was doing it on his own. He said, that was also an instruction, he said. But then we normalized relations. We allowed Fiji to return to the Commonwealth and all that. But those 2 years were completely lost because of a lack of communication between me and the government, basically.
Sir, you had mentioned about the young Indian diplomat, the Kokkat Shankaran Pillai, who was assassinated in Ottawa. And he was an idol to you because your dad, he is from Kayangulam only.
Yeah.
Your dad used to tell us about the legendary civil servant, or rather diplomat, who was assassinated. Can you throw light on him, or is a very small brief?
Well, I am in the Foreign Service because of Shankar Pillai.
Yeah.
I never met him. But my father knew him because he was in a lodge here in Trivandrum. And Shankar Pillai was next door neighbor because my father was also studying. And he was doing maths, MSc or whatever. So he noticed this young man coming home every day with 6 books and taking them back in the morning. So my father was very impressed with him. 6 books he reads every night. So he became friendly with him and asked him what he was doing. So he said, I'm preparing for the Foreign Service, I want to be an ambassador. So my father got very excited and said, oh, I have a brilliant son and all that. He said, yo, put him to the Foreign Service. He will become an ambassador. So my father came back and said, you have to be an ambassador. Then I was looking around because those days ambassadors were cars. I didn't know a human ambassador.
And very popular car.
So I said, how do I become an ambassador? But I didn't have the guts to ask my dad. I said, yes, I'll become an ambassador. And I kept wondering for many years what I was going to do becoming a car. So, and that is how I joined the Foreign Service. I would not have even heard about it in Kayangulam.
And your brother followed your
Oh,
steps.
that was 13 years later.
Yeah.
So, but the final story is even more interesting. During the
Fiji coup, I
During
remember
the Fiji coup, the Deputy High Commissioner of UK's car was shot at.
Shot.
Okay. So my father heard shooting High Commissioner. He said, my son has been shot.
History repeating.
And he was quite happy. Shankar Pillai was shot, my son was also shot. Happily. So when we telephoned him, he said, oh, you are still alive. That was his commitment to Shankar Pillai. His daughter still lives in Trivandrum.
Oh, yeah, is it? Huh? Shankaran Pillai, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, India has the G20. We'll come back to G20. Our own Amitabh Kant was a Sherpa. And G20, there was a major hype on G20. In Kerala, Kumaragam also, we had a session of G20. And there is a saying that until and unless there is some intervention on the Russian-Ukraine war, the G20 doesn't mean business. So, and G20 has been expanded or rather extended to the African inclusion of a lot of African countries, maybe the G50, I suppose. So, can you throw some light on that subject, G20 and...
Well, in a crisis situation like Russia, Ukraine, here was a group the G20, which was established in order to deal with the economic crisis of 2007-2008, which composition was slightly better than that of the Security Council. Developing countries are there, and there was a kind of balance, and there is no veto in G20. So what we tried to do was, we tried to bring these parties together through the G20 format.
Okay.
And G20 had met twice before they came to India. In both places, there was no agreement. But the first G20, there was an agreement which both Ukraine and Russia supported, was accepted in Delhi. So it got a big hype. That is, India was able to create a situation where both sides agreed. Nothing happened on the ground. That's a different matter. And so we got the Africans to join. Normally there are only two meetings for G20. One is foreign ministers meeting, other is the summit. We had 200 meetings.
Yeah, I remember that.
We spent our own money and brought all these people to India, exposed Indian culture and philosophy, everything. And so G20 grew into a major establishment, major institution. So that is when I wrote something in the Hindu saying, I was surprised that Hindu published it in the first place.
When Siddharth Varadarajan was the editor, no?
Saying that G20 should replace the Security Council. It was a horrible thing to say. Nobody will agree to G20. But that was a thought. And I must say it was discussed in the backdrop of the United Nations in New York. Many people wrote to me saying that your proposal is gaining momentum. It wouldn't gain any momentum because permanent members will never accept anything like that.
They're not
But
even
somebody like
accepted
Dr. Elbarada, who was a
Elbaradi,
Nobel
Prize winner.
IAEA, he told me that yes, what you are saying is right. At least temporarily for this crisis, let G20 work. And several ideas. But of course everybody said it's impossible. Permanent members will not agree to any change. And so it was just a kite flying. But that thought may come back. I said at least as a working group of the Security Council, suppose G20 works. But now the tragedy has struck G20, you know that. The Americans have just walked out of G20. Like BRICS, now they are attacking G20 also. So any hope of any change or G20 becoming a success has been finished because Rubio is not going to the G20 meeting in Brazil.
Rubio, the foreign secretary.
For the new Secretary of State. So
G20,
that is the end.
So G20 is...
Well, because we were trying to get the leadership of what is called Global South.
Yeah, and China...
That's what we were trying.
And China doesn't want
China also wanted, Russia also wanted. But we succeeded in creating this impression of the Global South is united and can work for the international security and peace. And that was one of the, out of the 2,000 articles I wrote, these are one of the articles which made a little bit of a wave around the world. But of course, nothing much came out of it.
And you also proposed for a international health force when the COVID came out, no? That was the time. I think I read out in this.
Yes, what happened during COVID was, unlike at the time of HIV, AIDS, or Ebola, Security Council could not discuss this crisis. You know that the Security Council's responsibility is international peace and security. Anything can be interpreted as international peace and security. That's why disarmament goes there, etc. So, in the case of Ebola and HIV/AIDS, Security Council met and took a decision that this will not remain only in the World Health Organization. The entire UN machinery will be deployed. And that is why HIV/AIDS and Ebola were controlled. They were as serious as COVID-19 in certain countries. But when the time came for the Security Council to be called to discuss the pandemic, China became the chairman of the Security Council by rotation. You know, every month, Security Council chaired by rotation, alphabetical order. So the March 2020, when this raged in the world, the first thing to do was for the Security Council to meet and decide that the entire UN machinery will be deployed. China, vetoed not only any decision, but also a meeting was vetoed. They said, we shall not meet. And that's only because President Trump kept saying that the Chinese virus, this is a Wuhan virus, etc.
Yes, yes.
So any study about the virus was blocked by China. And that is why it took us 2 years to create vaccines. Vaccines were lying around in different parts of the world.
To
unused,
distribute the
and
vaccines.
other countries were wanting the vaccine, didn't get it. All this because of the veto of China.
To the Security Council.
Yeah, Security. So what I suggested was, there is something called a UN peacekeeping force.
Like the IPKF.
How is it made? UN peacekeeping force, the Secretary General.
Drawn from several
Yeah,
countries.
General Secretary has no army.
Right.
Of course, one General Secretary wanted to have an army. Then he was told, you are only Secretary General, you are not a general. So he was not allowed.
Was he Uthan?
So what happened? No, this Egyptian.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if there is a crisis and Security Council decides to intervene, then Secretary General asks all the countries to contribute. And India is one of the biggest contributors to peacekeeping forces. And then they are deployed in the area, and there is a drill, preventive diplomacy, then ceasefire, then peacekeeping, then peace building. There's a scheme. That's how everything is done. So that did not happen in this case. So that is why this happened, and that is why today the United Nations is completely paralyzed, because at the worst time when security of the whole world, existential threats to the world, was not handled by the Security Council at all. And that was a big tragedy.
And the WHO chief was...
No, so what I suggested was, let us make what is called a UN health keeping force. Again, I wrote this in the Hindu. Just like the peacekeeping force, let the Secretary General invite countries to send doctors, etc., make teams, and wherever there is danger, like an army, deploy them there. Even if that country doesn't want, because there are several countries who are saying, we don't want any help from the UN, we'll handle it, because they don't want intervention in their internal affairs. But this was a good idea, because instead of the blue beret of the peacekeeping forces, I said there should be a red beret for the health keeping force. Immediately in the UN, there are a lot of support for it. Many of my friends were calling me from there. Oh, this is a fantastic idea. Everybody is talking about it. But that talking lasted only for 3 days, because China would not allow anything to be done on Wuhan virus.
Because of people getting to know about what's happening inside.
Yes, anybody who independently studies the situation, that will happen when you have a force.
Yes.
Would expose them.
Sir, now, yesterday, Donald Trump has said about Gaza being taken over, and maybe it could be a recreation place. Trump is a businessman primarily. Trump has several ideas on his business front, maybe. And Netanyahu and Trump are meeting today. Yesterday they met. Today also, I think Netanyahu is meeting the Foreign Secretary of the US. And do you feel that such a decision will come out, or they will work it out?
No, the only thing good about or known about Mr. Trump is he is unpredictable. That is the only judgment we can make. Nothing else you can make. And secondly, as far as India, US is concerned, we will get full support from him on only one issue, which is China. Because to contain China, he needs India. We are the only ones with a border with China. If tomorrow there is a war and the Chinese move out, they will move out through Darjeeling, through India, and they will walk through India in order to go and meet the Americans or Taiwanese or whoever. So, as far as Trump is concerned, India is important. I think he has invited Mr. Modi only because of that. He is not interested in anything else. That on China, he will stand firm with you. But on nothing else, we can depend on him as of now.
No, I'm asking you the Gaza situation.
Well, Gaza is one of those things, one of those, mad things that he is saying. That is, taking Gaza is not the issue. What is the issue in Palestine? You need the second state.
Yes.
United Nations established Israel and Palestine. Israel is a powerful country today. Palestine is nowhere. So unless you have two states established as determined by the United Nations, nothing will change the situation. And he is saying first, the Israelis are only saying we drive them from Gaza to the West Bank.
To Egypt. And,
No, West Bank also.
And Jordan also.
Yeah, Jordan and the West Bank is under Palestine.
Yes, yes.
There is a Palestine Authority on the West Bank, and they are more independent than the Palestinians in Gaza. In Gaza, they were permanent prisoners.
Yeah.
They had no identity of its own. That's why they finally,
No,
struck.
actually, I feel that on October 7, 2023, when Hamas raided into Israel territory, they were bringing the Palestine issue back to the world center
No, no,
stage. Because after the IUU Accord, no?
Yeah.
IU Accord, that's what, no?
We
India-
are with Israel and
Israel-
US in a
yeah.
quad.
In the Quad, yeah. So they brought it back to the center stage. That
No,
October
because
7.
what happened was several countries had signed the Abraham
Yeah,
Accords,
Abraham Accord, yeah, including Saudi Arabia.
created by Trump's son-in-law.
Saudi has not signed, and Saudi
no,
won't
Saudi was about to
sign. Yeah, when this brought.
That is when they struck, because they said even if we sacrifice ourselves, Palestine idea should not be sacrificed.
Yeah, that's what.
If Saudi had signed the agreement, that would have been the end of the Palestine as an idea.
That's what they brought it to the center stage. That
And
is
they
what-
succeeded.
They succeeded. in
Even
that.
though 40,000 people were killed,
60, around 60.
60,000 people were killed, the Palestine is still
An
alive
issue.
as a state.
As
And
an
that is
issue
what
also.
he is trying to remove.
Yeah.
He is not going into politics. He says, I'll turn it into a heaven.
Yeah.
And everybody can go and enjoy themselves. It's Mediterranean, beautiful climate, nice country. And what about the Palestinians? Send them somewhere, he said. Maybe Greenland he is thinking of, or Panama Canal. I mean, these are things we would not even imagine that a president of the United States would say. And he already said Canada is the 51st state. of the
51st, yeah.
He called Mr. Trudeau Mr. Governor. He was shocked. He was shaken.
No, but I think after one discussion with Trudeau, he has stepped back for a month regarding this 51st state thing. I think so.
No, but that is because he tried to impose this tariff. You know, the most unfortunate thing is that has happened to the global situation today, that Trump had decided that he would use trade as a war machine. This is what he decided. And that was always there. Even last time he imposed many sanctions against many countries and there was chaos. But this time that he had decided that he will weaponize tariff. That is one thing he announced. And the second thing he announced was that we will deport all the illegal aliens from US. And these were two issues. If these two issues had remained as two issues, there would have been no problem. But what happened was when he sent 2 plane loads of people to Colombia, without the permission from Colombia, the plane had to come back.
Yeah.
He was so angry that he imposed 200% duty on Colombian goods. And Colombia lives on United States because all their manufacturing is meant for export to United States. And if it is 200% duty, they cannot survive anymore. So they surrendered. Then he realized this is the way. So he linked deportation with trade war. And this is the worst thing has happened.
But I think China has also put the 15%.
Yeah. You can do it reciprocally.
Reciprocally.
But Americans doing it and our doing it makes a big difference.
Big difference. Yeah. Not we, China, I suppose.
No, whether we, even if we impose, we can also impose 200%. Then what happens to us? What happens to our import and export? While United States, when it does, it closes down a country.
Yes.
That is the problem.
Sir, one more thing. If the Prime Minister Modi is traveling to US next week, I suppose next week, and in between they have deported a lot of illegal.
Only 250.
True, but there are reports that they were brought in shackles. They were shackled. They were handcuffed, shackled, and brought in a military plane to Amritsar. What will be the situation? Because there are more than one. I think 1 lakh, more than 100,000 illegal migrants in the US from India.
Could be more.
Could be more, yeah.
No, but,
so, but this has come out in the global media.
No, today there was a big
released
furor
also.
in the parliament.
Yeah, there's a big
And Mr. Jaishankar is supposed to make a statement this afternoon.
No,
how it
Jaishankar has
happened.
made a statement that the government of India will take stringent action against the human traffickers. That is the one
No,
statement.
that is not the issue.
No, that is the
Issue
one
is
statement
whether-
I could. I had not seen his press
No,
conference.
who are these 250 people? Do we know? See, I have dealt with this issue in Europe in a very small scale. Because Indians, so-called Indians would come to the Indian embassy in Austria and say that we are Indians, we would like to go back to India. Give us a ticket. Okay, the first question I ask is, where are you from? Show me your identity. Which village? Nothing. They are somewhere, straying around in Europe, and they come to a new country and ask for it. What they do first is burn their passports. So we never accepted any single person, however pathetic his situation was, because without identity we cannot take. He could be a Pakistani, he could be a Bangladeshi. And many of them are now in jails in Austria. It's a very unkind thing to do. But here, have we been convinced about it? Somebody said India had verified it, but I doubt it very much. Particularly if we are put in chains and shackles and all that.
Yeah, that's what.
No Indian diplomat would have cleared it.
That's what.
So we would like to hear what
But generally, if at all they are putting them out of the country, they will deport to the concerned embassies, no, or rather high commissions, no?
No, but they are supposed to be Indian citizens according to American calculations. Okay. So they are mostly from Punjab, that is why the flights went to. But the government has not clarified anything on this. And that is why in Parliament there was a huge furor about it. And sir, we have to see what Jayashankar says.
One more thing, and we will ask one more question to you, and then we will ask the crowd. Sir, you had a very interesting article, edition in this, chapter in this, on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Ramkoji Temple. We believe that Netaji's ashes are in Ramkoji Temple. And you, as a young Indian diplomat, you have been traveling across Tokyo, or rather Japan, the outskirts of Japan, to meet the people who had a direct meeting or the direct, they were direct witness to the tragedy. And Justice Khosla was Justice Koda, was the commission. And what was your perspective? Because there were 3 commissions. After that, the Mukherjee Commission, but Mukherjee Commission has substantiated the claim that it is not. I doubt that.
No, all the commissions have established beyond doubt that this was the dead body of Subhash Chandra Bose, and it is being kept in a temple in
Ramkoji Temple.
Rinpoche.
Rinpoche Temple.
And the Japanese, their objection to this is, why don't you trust us? We are telling you this is Netaji's ashes. But government of India would like to take it. But then there will be, riots in Bengal.
Yeah.
They believe that he is still alive. So we tried many times to bring this back, because it's a major point of contention between us and Japan. They say, we have investigated, you have investigated 3 times. Everyone has come to the conclusion that this is Netaji's ashes. And I met 2 or 3 old generals who were tears in their eyes. He says, I carried this man's body myself, and you are telling me he's not dead? What do you do? And then there was a lawyer, the accompanying justice, who was to argue against this.
You are lying.
He was telling these generals, you are lying. We know he did not die there. Anyway, all the reports are like that. But there is now some little hope, because Netaji's daughter has now said, let us do a DNA on the ashes and let us see whether he is. But that is not also acceptable in Bengal. So the government of India is not immediately jumping at it, because we don't want fires to take place because in the Bengali mind, of course they know he could not have been alive. But they are very sure that he did not die.
He withstood the crash. Yeah. He was not in the crash. Now I think our discussion is almost over. The crowd, the people can ask some questions.
Begum Hasina has said that the Americans are responsible for her overthrow. And I just want to know, are the Americans capable of doing it in Bangladesh? They have done it in South America. But are they that strong in?
Well, I don't believe that story. Because if the Americans wanted an island in the Bay of Bengal, the best person they should ask is India. Because they say they wanted this island to contain China. Who is their best partner in this area? And Bay of Bengal is under India's control. So India could have easily given them any facility that they would have asked for. Then how should we go and ask Hasina to give it, and then she refuses, and therefore there's a coup? This story I don't believe. This is simply a revolt against what India did in 1971. They want to undo it. They want to bring Pakistan back. Most interesting story I heard about this is Vaikam Mohammad Bashir, not a geopolitical expert, But when he heard Bangladesh is liberated, he said, നമുക്കിപ്പോൾ രണ്ട് ശത്രുക്കളായി അല്ലേ? Can you imagine him saying it? With foresight. He is only a writer. But none of us thought about that. We thought we are a great friend. But Vaikam Muhammad Bashir said then that we have created an extra enemy for ourselves. So, but the Americans, I don't think were behind it. Anyway, now Trump has stopped all financial assistance to Bangladesh.
Yeah. But Yunus is a American product, no?
Well, that's why I know him very well.
Yeah.
He's a very good man. But now I think he's
Like
completely
your
at the
friend
disposal
Rupert.
of the disposal of the army.
Yeah.
What happened? No.
ടാരിഫർ അല്ലേ സാർ, ഈ ടാരിഫർ ഒരു ആഗോളതലത്തിലൊരു ഹൈപ്പർ ഇൻഫ്ലേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ സാധ്യതയുണ്ടോ? ഫസ്റ്റ്. സെക്കൻഡ്, ഈ ക്രിപ്റ്റോ കറൻസി, ഡീസെൻട്രലൈസ്ഡ് ക്രിപ്റ്റോ കറൻസിയുടെ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ എന്തായിരിക്കും? കാരണം ലോക രാജ്യങ്ങളെ മുഴുവൻ അവരുടെ അധികാരങ്ങളെ ചോദ്യം ചെയ്യുന്നതല്ലേ ഈ ഡീസെൻട്രലൈസ്ഡ് ക്രിപ്റ്റോ കറൻസീസ്. അതിൻ്റെ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ എന്തായിരിക്കും? രണ്ട് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് സാർ.
Well, I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. I don't even own one of them. Okay. I should have. So I cannot say anything about that.
Okay.
But it is very certain that if there is a trade war of this kind, or even of a smaller nature, the entire financial system in the world will collapse. If we cannot bank with each other, if we cannot use American currency. And then he is also upset. Mr. Trump is also upset that BRICS countries are thinking of an alternative currency to the dollar. India has not supported it. But he has threatened BRICS countries that he will impose 200% taxes on all these countries, including India and China, if this proposal for an alternative to dollar is ever proposed. In fact, it was ready to be proposed in Russia, but the Russians did not allow it. So, but this will not happen. I don't think there will be any alternative to dollars. It is not possible at all. So what BRICS is saying is not practical. So, but even of a limited trade war with China that he launched created havoc, not only in China but also in India. So trade war is very serious because people may not die on the field, but they will die in the other countries out of hunger. So it's a very serious matter. I cannot say anything about cryptocurrency.
Thank you, sir.
I was going to ask you about the major office that you have been tenanting through your service, but now we have got one more thing. There are two major edifices in the world that are about to collapse. One is the United Nations and the second is the world financial system.
Not to count WTO,
yes.
Not to count WHO.
Yes, all those components of that. So now the world has gradually been organizing itself into various other regional and interest-based groups. Do you see anything else dominating? Like G20 you said was a near force. Any crystal ball gazing into what will replace, what will become central to the world now in the years to come?
The truth we must accept that the 1945 arrangement for world peace through the UN is dead. Absolutely. There is no chance of the UN being revived. No chance of India becoming a permanent member, nothing. Of course, Mr. Trump has not spoken about that aspect of it. Just before the elections, Americans said, we are willing to give 6 permanent seats to developing countries on the Security Council, but without veto. What is the point? The veto is the important point. So, by giving us 6 seats and we sitting there and listening to others talking, and any moment it will be vetoed by the Americans or the other 4, then this is no solution. So India has not touched it, but among our own community, my own colleagues say we should take it. Whatever we get, let us take. But I have been saying that this will be very dangerous to accept it, because permanently you will be a non-permanent member and you will be sitting in the Security Council and judging others, passing resolutions, and when your own issue comes up, Kashmir comes up, they will remember all this and fight you back, and you have no veto, right? And therefore, being a non-permanent member or permanent member with veto in the UN is of no use to us. But people are attracted by it. Oh, we'll be sitting in the Security Council all the time. For what purpose? To create more enemies? Because my own colleagues don't agree with me, but that is my view. But anyway, that is not going to come. Many countries will not accept that. So there is no alternative. So a new global order has to come. And now what happened is everybody from United States, India to Vanuatu or Colombia, all of them feel that the new world order will come and we should be at the head of it. That is why nobody is collaborating with anybody else. Nobody is calling anybody a friend. All those, world war alliances are not there. NATO is there, but NATO is doing what NATO was supposed to do, right? So everyone is trying to fight for a place in the new world order. United States, of course, presumes that they will be there. China presumes it. We think we will be. And that is why the wars are not ending. Because once this war ends on account of one country, then that country will become a major force in the new global order. So everybody is a candidate, and therefore nobody is able to put things together because they're all waiting for this new thing to come. UN cannot do anything because the veto has completely destroyed it. And therefore, where is this new world order? And that is when Trump comes. Obviously, he has a new world order in his hands. Take Greenland, take Panama Canal. That's the world order he's talking about.
Take
so
Canada.
here is the Messiah of the world order. But what kind of Messiah is this? Is that what you find out? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we thank Mathrubhumi for giving this session.
Thank you for reading the book. Now I know one person has read the book.